I'd like to welcome everybody to the September 2024 meeting of the Hamlin Planning Board. Tonight we have a lunch public hearing, so in a really large audience, so if something happens that we have to bail out of here, you go out the door and to the left, and exit there, out the door to the right, exit down the other and go home. There is a Xanthan across the hall if we need it for someone having a heart attack. And with that, please make sure all your cell phones are turned off so that it doesn't detract from the rest of the people while we're having this meeting.
Sharon Steigerwald. Here. Steve Law.
Here.
Dave Martin.
Here.
Chris Schleider.
Here.
Steve Nesbitt.
Here.
Ed Nelson.
Here.
Steve.
Yeah. Okay, has everybody had a chance to look at the August 5th, 2024 meeting minutes, and are there any glaring mistakes or changes or any other type of correction for their meeting or not? We can take a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Any else, please?
Sharon Steigerwald.
Yes.
Steve Law.
Abstain.
Dave Martin.
Yes.
Chris Schleider.
Yes.
Steve Nesbitt.
Yes.
Ed Nelson.
Yes.
Steve.
Okay, tonight we have 5 public hearings. That's a bunch of conservation corridor permits. We massaged the agenda a little bit, but at this time I'd like Cheryl to read the publications. Agriculture, I think there's 3.
Okay, I'll start.
Please.
Public hearing for updated site plan amendment to Megan D. Piper, 471 Hammond Center Road. Application of Megan D. Piper, owner Megan D. Piper, seeking amended site plan approval for lot 3 of 15 and Skidmore subdivision located at 471 Hammond Center Road. This is in the RL zoning district, account number 022.03-2-003.3. Next public hearing is an updated site plan amendment also. Yeah, I gotta skip that one, I apologize. Public hearing, site plan approval, Mylar, we signed Madeline Young, 405 Fairhouse Road. Application of Madeline Young, owner, Madeline Young, seeking site plan approval, Mylar resigning for 4059 Schoolhouse Road to build a new home. This is in the RM zoning district, tax account number 020.02-3-16.21. Next public hearing is a preliminary and final single lot subdivision for Teresa Randazzo, 984 Chase Road, part of the Soda subdivision. Application of Teresa Randazzo, owner Teresa Randazzo, seeking preliminary and final single lot subdivision located at 984 Chase Road, the Soda subdivision. This is in the RGL zone, tax account number 014.02-1-18.11. Public hearing for preliminary and final single lot subdivision for Morgan Andrew Honan, 180 Ketchum Road. Application of Morgan and Andrew Honan, owners Morgan and Andrew Honan, seeking preliminary and final single lot subdivision approval to build a single family dwelling to be located at 180 Ketchum Road. This is in the RL zoning district, tax account number 014.02-1-13.214. And the last one we have that we moved around a little bit is a public hearing for updated site plan amendment for Thomas Meadow, Hidden Pines subdivision, section 3, application of Thomas Meadow, owner Thomas Meadow, seeking amended site plan approval for Hidden Pines, section 3, located at 1931 Lake Road. is in the RL zoning district. Tax account numbers are 029.01-2-16.1 and 029.1010-1-005.111. And that's at the public hearings.
Okay, before we get started, Mark?
Yes.
You wanna sit up next to Phil and this couple over here?
Oh, yeah.
Grab those. Thank you. We don't have to stand. Thank you. Good to see you too, Mark.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, Chris, it's your show.
We go. All right, so the first one was, it's actually lot 3 of the Dean Skidmore subdivision that was actually developed back in the mid-90s. My client Megan Piper searches both lots and is interested in building her house on lot 3. Lot 2, which was originally approved for building, if they do decide to build on it, we need to go through the same process and provide an updated site plan for that. We had an opportunity to submit it to county agencies and town engineer to address review comments from all those folks. The last round from the town engineer asked that we call out that the proposed drive will be paved. And there was also a change in the detail sheet to reflect the current detail for that drive. Attorney Watersbury has reviewed the plans and we're ready to sign off as one of the county health department.
Okay, I'll open this up at the public part of the hearing. If there is someone here that has questions on this project, feel free to ask them for clarification. But I do ask you to stand up and state your name, and your address, and then we can get some comments going. Is there anybody here that wants to comment? On the Skidmore subdivision of 471 Hammond Center Road? No, in that case, I will close the public portion of the meeting and open it up to staff. So that comes to this. Let's ask Janine this week first.
No, I don't have any issues on this one.
Okay. Very good. They need no permits or considerations from the conservation.
Mm.
Thank you. KP?
As Chris suggested, they've addressed my engineering comments from my last letter dated August 29th. They're now showing that the road is paved for a private road. It could serve another potential property. There's bump outs for fire protection and an ample turnaround for emergency vehicles. So those were the gist of my comments. So my comments have been.
Keith?
I have no concerns. For secret purposes, it's unlisted. I ask that you impose a condition that a planning board attorney approval so I can get the easements taken care of. That would be the common ground.
We'll make sure you're the last one that signs off on it.
Thank you for that.
Okay?
Nothing further.
Sorry if we're getting some interruptions from across the hall. I don't know how much longer you're going to be having their kid things. Cheryl?
I have no concerns. They've all been addressed.
Sharon?
No concerns.
No concern.
Dave?
Looks pretty good.
No concerns. Well, I have a question for you.
Sure.
On the site plan, can you show me where the closest hydrant is?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it was on the most recent
Is it
update,
this one
it's
that
right
you're
across the street. The original, believe it or not, that's an abandoned water main with a hydrant. If you look at the newest hydrant, which is a new water main on the north side, is right opposite our driveway. So what had happened was, we had shown the water main as originally approved, and part of the review of the laboratory, comments said, oh, wait a minute, there's a new water main out there, and you got a hydrant across the street. So
So, on the set of drawings that we're gonna sign, okay, I would expect that to be shown,
It is currently shown, that's correct.
okay?
Yep.
I'd like to, at this point in time, I think it would be more opposed to public hearing and this time, I would explain to the board members that O'Toole's law firm's letters from August 2nd, and for tonight's meeting, there are comments about what the seeker should be and how it should be worded, be resolved, and whatever resolution or declaration we make, I would like it to say that upon acceptance by the planning board attorney of all easements and documents thereof. With that, I guess for a motion for seeker.
Yeah, I'll make a motion for seeker for, Megan D. Piper, 471 Woodland Center Road. And, this is the unlisted negative declaration. And, thanks. And, we resolve that with an unlisted action, not declaration. What's that?
Well, you should have got it from last month's meeting.
I'll second.
Poll the votes, please.
Sharon Steigerwald,
Yes.
Steve Law,
Yeah.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Rich Slider,
Yes.
James Nesbitt,
Yes.
Ed Nelson,
Yes.
Steve Pittman.
Yes.
Okay, this is preliminary and final. Cheryl? Do this?
Can we do it, ma'am?
Yeah, it's a single lot.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion for Megan D. Piper, 471 Hamlin Center Road. Yeah, lot 3. And, the tax account number is 022.03-2-003.3 for a final approval,
Preliminary and
preliminary and final approval. You want one, or do you want two?
One motion.
One motion, okay. For preliminary and final approval.
You need to get these ones approved.
Approval form, yes, he should have got one.
I'll second.
There.
Sharon Steigerwald,
Yes.
Steve Law,
Yeah.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Rich Slider,
Yes.
James Nesbitt,
Yes.
Ed Nelson,
Yes.
Steve Pittman.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
We'll go to the next one. Public hearing for 4059 Brick Schoolhouse Drive, Madeline Young. You're representing the
Correct.
please state your name and everything for the,
My name is Larry Stevens, I'm a home builder. Looking to build a home on Brick Schoolhouse.
okay, with that, this is a lot that has been sitting out there for quite a while. Okay. Is there anybody here from Brick Schoolhouse Road or within the nearest distance to it that has any comments or concerns about this application at this time? With it being said and unanswered, I'll close the public portion of this meeting and open it up for staff comments. JP?
Well, we originally reviewed this in '96, and then again in 2007, and I don't know when the last re-sign was, but really nothing's changed. So I have no reservations in not re-signing on our end.
Keith, there was some concerns about the age of this property at the last meeting.
They were, and the advice was when you look at an old plan, you have to give some consideration to freshening it up, particularly since the regulations in place have changed over the years. But if the board is comfortable with what you have, then I would recommend a seeker resolution classifying it as unlisted negative declaration. I have no other concerns beyond that.
Okay. For this recommendation is to bring their approved plans from the back. Okay. Do we have that one here? Keith,
We could bring this up if you like. Why don't we do
after your perusal of this, Keith, did you see any need for easement redescriptions or easements?
There is an easement called out. We like to have the library page just to verify that the easement is actually been recorded.
And I seem to remember that was discussed at the last meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't have anything.
Not that I'm aware of on this plan. Certainly, if they have one, I don't know if we have the old Mylar. Do you know if we have the old Mylar, Cheryl, or is that long gone at this point?
Probably would be there if it was Mylar, usually Mylars go back to engineers, and you can,
Let me ask Chris Schultz, who did the original Dodger subdivision.
Mhm.
Chris, would you have copy of libraries and pages and stuff in your office?
At the time of recording, the easements wasn't required separately as a library map, maps. But I did provide the developer legal descriptions and maps, which he forwarded to his attorney to confer with Mr. O'Toole, so that it can be done. So this is a similar situation as most plans, once you get to a state that the board's comfortable with, so nothing's gonna change as far as line work, then it's appropriate to pursue the recording of those easements. So I believe everything necessary to record those easements is in the hands of the attorney or attorneys at this point.
I was contacted by an attorney recently,
Okay.
and asked for that information. I don't know if it was for this project or another, but I wasn't happy with that. I get those inquiries from time to time, so.
Okay. So we can condition any motion on this, the approval of those, and I'm gonna kick in this one, because it's such an older site plan that needs to be resigned, and I'll be the last to sign it. So, performance is for you to partake of, to make sure that we're both here. Okay? Sure. Any questions, concerns?
no, it's very similar to a lot, just like one or two lots over, that, the proposed owners came in, to get the Mylar signed.
Just do the same size lot, and,
Sure.
No, I think we talked about most of their concerns the last time. Yeah.
What's your square footage on the house?
1,500.
1,500?
Yeah, it's 2 stories, so it'll be 25, the house is approximately 2,500, and then the garage is 2,400.
being said, we'll close the public hearing portion of this. And we could be looking for a secret motion this time.
Make a motion for the application of Madeline Young, 4059 Brick Schoolhouse Road, to be an unlisted action negative declaration under secret.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Sharon Steigerwald,
Yes.
Steve Law,
Yes.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Rich Snyder,
Yes.
James Nesbitt,
Yes.
Ed Nelson,
Yes.
Steve Hill.
Yes.
Okay, and also would like a motion for final approval of this lot because it did have preliminary approval.
Make a motion for final approval and re-signing for the Mylar 4059 Brick Schoolhouse Road, tax account 020.02-3-16.21. For Mylar re-signing, this is an RM zoning district, with the stipulation that all issues with the easements are recorded to the approval of the attorney.
Call the roll, please.
Sharon Steigerwald,
Yes.
Steve Law,
Yes.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Rich Snyder,
Yes.
James Nesbitt, Ed Nelson,
Yes.
Steve Hill.
Yes.
Very good. We will- Next public hearing. Is for Teresa Randazzo. 984 Chase Road, Minnesota subdivision, a single lot. Preliminary and final.
Well, before I start, I have updated plans based on.
Okay, excuse me. All right, can you repeat that?
So I have updated plans based on JP's comments that we hand out. If you want to see them.
I knew there was an updated.
Right, I would like to have that part of the, as you see, when you have a bunch of public hearings, it makes things sometimes. But thank you for that.
Okay, hold it on. Okay, I'm gonna do it.
Okay.
Okay. Is anybody here in the public that has any comments or concern about constructing a house on 984 Chase Road, so something that's part of Chase? 60. Walk away again. Okay, for this portion of the meeting, this public is hearing, would you outline the things that you've changed on the drawing to bring it into compliance?
Yeah.
As requested by the town engineer, please.
So the first comment, says that we put that Hamlin standard plan notes on there. We have this Hamlin standard plan notes. We looked over the sanitary sewer force main on Walker Lake Ontario Road, and we decided to stay with the leach field system. It's eager to build, and price reasons. We added the Hamlin driveway entrance detail to the plans on the detail sheet and on the site plan. We've also added a note to show the conservation overlay district. It's the same area as the 100-year floodplain. We just added a label for that. We've also decided to remove the barn at this time, and then cover possible variance later. And the last comment is that we need signed plans from our engineer.
Pardon me?
We need signed plans from our engineer at our office, which we will do.
Does anybody else have any concerns now? That you've heard what they've done and changed since the original? Okay. All right, the second thing, JP.
Tom reviewed my comments, and, he has included the majority, or all of the items on my comment letter from August 29th, and I understand that I wrote it on the 29th, so, for him to update the plans and that short order on Holly, I get rid of this. Short notice, but that's how it goes. So, yeah, he's addressed my engineering concerns. The big one, and we talked about this at the previous meeting, is we do have this force main that was installed along Walker Lake and Ontario Road for the Lake Shore Sewer District, and there's been several properties interested in tying into it. And they've explained in light of the timing, they would just prefer to build their septic system in a leach field. My only comment would be, make it flexible if you can to tie in, instead of having a leach field in the septic system, be able to tie into the public sewer. But that's their choice. And we can't, I would just prepare for the future, but that's fine.
You folks do have a PDF of the town construction details and everything else?
Yes, we do. Yep.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
Okay,
I have no legal concerns, for secret purposes, it's unlisted, and that's about it.
Cheryl.
I have no concerns.
Sharon.
The concern was addressed.
This property is in the LWRP, but it is consistent with the policies of the LWRP.
And that's gonna be the next item on the agenda, with the
And this is the LWRP though.
no concern. No concern.
The only one I had kind of with, going along with what he said is it would make more sense if in the future, somebody wanted to tie into the sewer, that the septic system put on the opposite side of the house.
What would the septic system be on this side? It would fit on the other side of the house due to the wetlands and where the house layout is. The utility room is on the west side, the east side of the house. Otherwise, we'd have to go all the way around the whole back of the house.
Right.
Yeah, they're a bit higher on this, easterly side of the property. You can see where the 100-year floodplain elevation and the elevations are lower on the west side. Where they're proposing the pump box, it could snake around over to Walker Lake and Ontario Road if things panned out that way.
I went out there.
So you have some utility room that is on the east side of the house.
Yes, yep. I also went out there, I perked many holes, and this was the best spot with the leach field.
Good.
Good. I guess at this time we'll close this public hearing and look at, seeker for this.
Make a motion then for, an unlisted type 2 negative, action for Teresa Mendoza, 94 Chase Road, the sort of subdivision.
That should be just unlisted.
Unlisted, okay, unlisted. like to make a correction then on that, and, I recommend that they, it be resolved that this is an unlisted action, because we adopt the negative declaration.
Sharon Steigerwald,
Yes.
Steve Law,
Yes.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Bruce Schleider,
Yes.
James Nestor.
Yes.
Ed Nelson.
Yes.
Steve Bittler.
Okay, I would further entertain a motion for preliminary and final.
The preliminary and final of Teresa Randazzo, 984 Chase Road, Minnesota subdivision. Preliminary and final. And this is an RVL zone, tax account 014.02-1-18.11. Following documents have been submitted for review, new copy of the site plan.
Sharon Steigerwald,
Yes.
Steve Law,
Yeah.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Bruce Schleider,
Yes.
James Nestor.
Yes.
Ed Nelson.
Yes.
Steve Bittler.
Okay. Very good.
Good.
Next item on the agenda is conservation order for the same.
Just because of the, location of the 100-year flood zone, this permit is required, and I don't have any issues with it.
So we need a motion to approve the conservation order for the board.
We need a secret.
Actually, no, because we just did seeker
Who did the
for
secret?
the greater project.
I make a motion to approve an application for Teresa Randazzo, seeking conservation corridor development permit for property located at 984 Chase Road. So the subdivision, this is in an RBL zone, tax account 014-1-18.11. The following documents have been submitted for review. Conservation corridor development, no application, site plan for the above public hearing information.
Second.
Full vote, please.
Sharon Steigerwald,
Yes.
Steve Law,
Yeah.
Dave Martin, Bruce Schleider, James Nestor,
Yes.
Ed Nelson,
Yes.
Steve Bittler.
Yes. Cheryl, that's our final copy of Rogers, so I don't forget it. Okay. Next item on the agenda is Hidden Pines, Section 3, 1939 Lake Road. A new section, another concept, and at this point in time, we'll open the public hearing, so first you can.
Yeah, basically, this was a subdivision that was started many years ago. The first section fronted on Town Line Road, pretty much most of the frontage. There was a small section of lot to access section 2 that came down to the west end of the property. At that time, there was an opportunity to potentially use the new technology of these individual pumps, sanitary pumps. And what it did is allow the development of slightly larger lots, but it saved a lot of the existing woods and reduced the amount of earthwork and overall impact. Section 2, so there was a market for larger lots at the time, and we thought that this was a better solution for the development of the site. When we did section 1 originally, we did an overall layout that showed a typical sanitary sewer, public water supply project in the town of Hammond. That we had all utilities, and we developed it with dedicated roads, sidewalks, and others, and get lots that were typically in the order of 100 to 200.
Speak up just.
Sure, so we started off with that original concept of how that would happen. So phase 2 had a road that came off the town line road and basically curved over to the east and then stopped. Section 3 was going to be the pickup of that road and then heading north and going out the Lake Road. And then there's actually a fourth section, which was the most northerly portion of the site. So very early on concept showed many, many, many more lots than where we ended up. And based on market demand and everything else, Section 2 was a successful design. Section 3 just waited, and until recently, the markets haven't been there to push for it. But we thought we would do something similar to the Section 3, develop larger lots, low impact, not burden the town with dedicated roads, do shared drives. We did have the benefit of having an 8-inch sanitary sewer that was installed north-south to service Section 1, already in the ground. So that's one of the big costs, other than storm sewer or dedicated road system. We already had sewer in the ground. So it was just a matter of figuring out what the demand was. So a client, Ms. Male had a client interested in a large lot, so we developed one lot that was close to 10 acres, and then the balance of the lots were 5 acres or so. So they all wanted larger lots. When we first got back into it, the first thing I did is I said, well, we had a wetland delineation done as part of doing the first section by a gentleman that had a whole career as a wetland biologist, Andy Smith from, it used to be called Sierra Brown, and now there's Stanford. And we did a very extensive delineation report, and as time goes by, maps change, and first thing we did was look at it and said, well, before we put any effort in this, let's see where the wetlands are. So we, Tom hired Andy to go back out. They ran around in the springtime for a couple days, and it was reported that the wetlands haven't really expanded. They were as originally delineated. The original delineation of the DEC wetland showed a wetland that was mostly to the westerly portion of the site, and the fed wetlands basically encompassed the DEC wetland. And as you know, fed wetlands are a little bit different. They don't typically have a 100-foot buffer associated with them. DEC wetlands do. DEC reg wetlands are typically over 12 acres in size. They look at large mass areas that are wetlands. Army Corps can be anything. It can be, a stormwater pond in a subdivision that's been there for 10 years or something might be considered a wetland. They stopped going all the way out to the roads and running down the roadside ditches because it was just going to be a disaster. The highway department's trying to figure out how to clean up highway ditches. But generally, DEC or Army Corps wetlands, they fall back on whether the stream is navigable, whether it's regulated or not. So it can be a wetland, but it may not be jurisdictional because if it's isolated or if it's not connected such that the Army Corps would consider it under their jurisdiction, then it is not something they regulate. So there has been, over the last 25 years, court cases have gone back and forth on whether the jurisdiction is this or that. Can you float a canoe down the creek? It's really kind of silly. But it changes all the time. What hasn't changed is the way that these wetland biologists go out and determine wetlands. They typically follow a procedure that the Army Corps has set up, which is tied into 3 specific things. They look for a predominance of wetland species. They call them obligate wetlands. with plants that will only grow in a wetland. So they wouldn't typically thrive in any type of area that's dry. They also look for hydrology. It has to be there repeatedly. It doesn't have to be there continuously, but if you have an area that floods every spring and they have that conditions, that could be considered one of the three items. And then the third thing that's the big one is soil types. What they do is they look for soils that are called hydric soils, which are soils that are typically inundated, flooded, and the oxygen content drops off. And you'll often get like a white bandy or whatever. So you'll see these wetland biologists go out with soil prods and they'll dig down in and they'll pull up and they'll match it up to a book that shows the colors of certain types of soils to see if in fact it's well. We're fortunate. Mapping of soils in New York State is pretty darn good. So you can get maps and look at it and see if you're going to be in an area that has potentially hydric or hydric soils. And that's one of the big implications. So I wanted to give you some background as to how we approach this. So it wasn't something that we just said, let's go forward. Now, in the course of doing the review, just recently, the town engineer said, you know, the current mapping that the DEC has put out for New York State shows the wetland expanding from where it was originally. And what we found out is because of, in my opinion, a lack of staffing and an issue associated with New York City DEC having the ability to actually go out and do delineations and actually map it. It kind of, instead of making their maps tighter and more accurate, it kind of made them a lot more vague. You also notice on the DEC mapping, they went from a 100-year buffer to, or 100-foot buffer to a 500-foot check zone. So they really just found themselves open to say, you might have wetlands here, you might check all these areas, and oftentimes the areas that they're shown as check zones are existing residential subdivisions that have been around for 30 years.
Chris, can you put the page up for this?
I'm gonna have to steal one back from somebody.
When do you want, I mean, these,
Yeah,
this
no
person extra, then
Yeah,
it's the
yeah,
same
so, but what happens is, because there's a concern that says, well, has the DEC confirmed the wetland? No, they haven't, and what has happened in the past, there was only, like I said, a handful of folks that did wetland delineations, and a lot of them either were trained by the ones that were running around doing it, or they knew them from personal experience. Gentleman Steve Miller at the DEC, which is pretty much the only guy that's running out doing wetland delineations for the DEC now, was actually trained by Gene Flood. So whenever he got a delineation done by Gene, he was pretty much like, I'm good with it, because he was basically his teacher. There was a gentleman that used to work for the DEC, John Hubbard, that was excellent. The guy could take you and identify a wetland, you know, right on the money. But he's long since retired. So what I'm showing here is this area back here is what was originally delineated as the DEC wetland and ended with a buffer.
Can everybody see that?
It ended quite a distance west of the Section 3 issue. So we basically, and that's what we based our current design on, saying, we're okay. We knew that this little corridor, which is fed, was delineated, you know, why it's so jagged. Those are actually flags that and Smith put out and surveyed, and just connected the dots. So it's so you've got the wetland here that's slowly over, you know, these are farm ditches. These are a couple ponds that must have been dug to fill when they were probably building one of the frontage houses. In the back of the farm, there's a couple holes. And then this drainage eventually works out to a roadside ditch. So somewhere between the roadside ditch and where the DEC reg wetlands is, this corridor was always fed. And the current design stuff on site that has fed wetlands, the rule is avoid it. Touch it, stay out of it, you do everything you can not to mess with the fed wetland. Because just like the DEC, the Army Corps helps us here, handles like Western New York State. and there's like 2 or 3 guys. And if you actually want to do something to impact the federally regulated wetland, you're adding 6 months to a year for the review, just to potentially do something. So you do what you can to avoid. So you notice, like on our plans, we found that the choke point, the narrowest point on this wetland corridor, and that's where we proposed a bridge. And the bridges that you do are bridges that span the wetlands. So you go bank to bank.
Flap the next page over.
Correct.
Show the house.
So, and that's after working with the engineers at the Army Corps, how they recommend it. So you'll see the same treatment for every type of project that has to go across a wetland, you know, whether it's a big solar farm or whatever with a fed ditch that goes through it. It's so much easier just to, and here's the bridge here, it's so much easier just to not touch the actual ditch. So you're going from the bank to the bank to the structure, and the ditch remains the same.
Okay.
So that's
Without
how-
all being said, okay, I'm gonna open it up for some
So,
public comment.
overlay. So, one of the rules that the DEC has is it won't take away a person, landowner's right to use the property. So if you have 100 acres of land and the entire frontage is a DEC controlled wetland, you do have a process that allows you to get through that wetland to get to your high and dry use of the land. It's an Article 24 control wetland permit. In that process, the engineer has to demonstrate that the crossing creates the minimum impact to the wetland. So there is a process there. You know, they just don't take your land away and say, too bad, you got luck. So, and with this instance, if in fact we end up going back to the DEC, and Andy to run out through the weeds, you mark something bigger, shows the expansion, that we potentially will need to, you know, proceed for that permit, move it on that road. But right now, we're not in a position to ask for any type of approval. We're really looking for continuation at this point.
We'd like to open this up to public comment. I'm sure there's some folks here that are probably here to have some comments about this project. Mark, you the appointed spokesperson?
Sure. Mark Ballerstein, 22 Farm Meadow Drive. I'm the president of the HOA for Section 2, which Tom Hiddenberg is building for us. And we did meet, and we talked about, you know, we're okay with the subdivision itself, but we have some concerns. And I typed up a little comment that I'll read, and then we can get into some more dialogue. So the members of the HOA for Farm Meadow Drive are concerned about stormwater drainage and how it may be impacted by this development and how that drainage will be maintained in the future. It appears to be relying on wetland areas for some of that drainage. We are witnessing an increase in their pond elevations. We got a couple of ponds in Section 2. And that water level doesn't go as low as it did in years past. It's judgmental, but that's our observation. We are also seeing that rainstorm will cause the pond elevations to go up much quicker and higher than we recall in the past. Again, we don't have any meters, we don't have exactly a thing, but it seems to be draining slower from our ponds. So our concern is that the downstream wetlands have a lot more vegetation than they did 20 years ago when the subdivision was built. And, you know, every roadside ditch gets cleaned out pretty regularly. These ditches have not been maintained, in drainage ways. So our concern is what can be done to address the situation. Is the town responsible for any maintenance of drainage down this pathway, the drainage way, like they would do on a road? Can any improvements be included in this development that might alleviate some of that concern that we have about getting drainage off our properties and avoid it from getting any worse? There's a possibility of maybe doing some storm sewers or just a better ditch that's outside of the wetland. I'm just trying to come up with ideas. And I'd like to have an engineer evaluate what we're talking about is water not draining as fast from our properties as it used to because of vegetation growing in the wetlands and the ditches that we don't know how those ponds got there, those ditches got there, but they're all interconnected and our main pond goes right into it, so.
I like the comment, if that's okay. So, absolutely, what you said, I can guarantee that's true. What happens with, land that's allowed to go? I mean, you know, 100 years ago, everything was a plowed field.
Yeah.
You saw from road to road, and, wetlands grow based on neglect. And the biggest thing that generates bigger wetlands is deadfall. When you get one tree falling across the old farmer's ditch, it backs things up, and then they get bigger. One of the nice parts about federally regulated wetlands is they do not restrict the property owner from cleaning those ditches. The biggest rule I learned a long time ago from an engineer from the Army Corps is, so you can go in and you can remove vegetation. You can basically move dirt. You can't bring dirt in. You can't bring dirt out of the fed wetland. And you can't go in a fed wetland with a tracked vehicle. Over tires, have a ball. And what, if you really are serious steward of your land, you walk it, you keep those ditch lines open and flowing. And what this plan actually does is redefine those ditch lines. Right now, that wetland stops with this area here. The ditch, the remnants of the ditch runs and then crosses the neighbor's corner of his lot and then kind of makes it out to the roadside ditch. There's no slope.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
Right.
The plan that we did basically intercepted this, put in a nice defined mowed swale, put in new storm sewer that was based on what we have running on the road. So we have good gradient and slope picking up that drainage. And we can't go in, we're not showing any disturbance of the wetlands itself, but everything, like from the pond, whatever is feeding it, we took that into consideration to make sure
I
we
think our
now have
concern
the
is,
ability.
our concern is much farther to the west.
Right.
I
But this
mean,
is,
roadside ditches are good solutions, we wish we had more of that.
the problem is,
somewhere.
there just isn't a lot of fall. So if you have an existing ditch that has hardly any slope at all, and suddenly you're able to improve it and give it a way for the water to move, you're suddenly not seeing the impacts during this storm event where, you know, these existing ponds don't have any way to relieve themselves. And that was part of the grading plan that, you know, addressed that, that took care of those issues. So, you know, we're very comfortable, confident that we will eventually have a plan that will address that. But you're absolutely right. You let something go, the old dishes that the farmers dug, they slipped in, water doesn't move. And honestly, the only time it really gets resolved is if somebody decides to develop the land and needs to do it. And we intend to take care of that issue.
Art, can I say a word?
So that being said, is there anybody else that is a concern?
Tom just wanted to say a word.
Be careful what you promise.
Yeah, my name is Jay Sikora. I live at 1930 Lakeland. And my concern is that road's coming out across the street, correct? If you're trying to put there?
It's gonna front on the existing 100-foot frontage on Lake Road,
Yeah, so right across the street
across the street
from where I live right now.
Oh, you're on this side?
1930, correct.
Okay, yes, sir.
Can you point that out on the map?
You're just right across here?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
My concern is if it's a road, where they push all the snow. Because our ditches that we have now can't keep up with what we have already.
Certainly.
The traffic, of course, it's a pain as it is right now.
Right.
With all this extra traffic coming out, nighttime, you know, the lights in the house and, you know,
Sure.
everything's off.
Yep.
When you.
So typically, this is a private road that services 4 houses. So you're not gonna get a ton of cars, first of all. Second thing is the way this is grading and the way that they'll plow it is they'll plow it westerly. And there's areas that are proximate to the hammerhead back here that are purposely set aside for snow storage. So no one's gonna be plowing across 19 and pushing snow on your side. 19 is not a road you wanna do that with.
They do it, but.
But the guy who's probably gonna be plowing is sitting in front of you, and the guy who's gonna be living there, doing the plowing, is sitting in front of you. And I don't think Tom's crazy enough to try to push all his snow across the state road. If anything else, he's gonna be cleaning out the driveway from the state plow, pushing snow in and taking it out of the property. But, you know, that's always, you know, one of those things where, you know, originally, like I said, I think we had over 24 lots potentially coming out here. So what we're proposing now is substantially reduced, much less impact. Are you gonna see a headlight? Sometimes you just stand in your front yard, like this, you know, someone runs down the store. Yeah, absolutely. But is this something that's gonna be a nuisance?
Well, I just
You're
didn't
gonna
want
see all-
something like a hunting park
Yeah,
across.
yeah, I mean, like anybody else, you know, most folks get up, go to work, you know, get home, you know, about dusk, might run out once, but,
My real concern is just the water.
yeah. The water is a challenge, but, you know, fortunately, it's very good topography. This is the last section of stuff, so we know what's coming off Combine Road, we know what's coming off Section 2. And we'll definitely handle this with the satisfaction of the town engineer and take into consideration any comments that you put.
Actually, plowing snow across the road, on a state highway, is illegal. You get tickets.
You can't do it.
Well, yeah, so is blowing grass on the road too.
Yeah.
They still do that.
Excuse me. And if you see it happening, you can report it to the town highway superintendent, and then he'll take it from there. Okay? You have to clean up after yourself. You're not supposed to have any contrail across the road that someone in a small vehicle would throw them off the lane, create a head-on situation. Okay? And I was in charge of snow removal for over almost 40 years, so I can tell you that it's a good time to call and ask for some enforcement. Okay? And you only got four homes down here, and maybe some teenagers come, you know, if they're
Right.
already paid for college. But you're not gonna have a lot of cars coming up, people are concerned with water tank.
Okay, good enough.
I'd like to address Mark's issue about the
Sure,
drainage.
go right ahead, save me the.
Mark, back when I lived there, that pond, there was 2 culvert pipes in there. And the gentleman that lived in that corner, they had his house, he plugged them up. And I noticed the water rising and rising, and I went over there, and I got right in the water, and he had stuff in that culvert pipe. And I pulled it all out,
You didn't
and I
want
yelled at him,
Yeah.
you can't do this, this has to drain everything. And he's not there anymore, but you may wanna check those pipes and see if they're clean. Cause he had some kind of muskrat traps or turtle traps in
He
there.
was trying to maintain his koi,
He was,
keeping his koi in the pond.
oh, that's what he was doing?
Yeah, so he had some screens, but, the new owner takes care of it regularly and.
Okay, I just.
I don't know, we can't really say that the things are clear or not clear, but downstream, you look downstream, the ditch is like this, you couldn't walk the ditch. It's
Yeah.
full of vegetation. I mean, I thought about, wow, what would we have to do to get this thing done? It'd be tough.
If there's no easements in the ditches, but let's finish the public. How many people are here to comment on this? Okay, would you like to put your 2 cents in?
Basically, just wanted to, neighbors with Jay, we had the same concerns, so I kinda wanted to hear what was going on and.
Everything gets taken under advisement, okay? We'll let the progression of the meeting go. Are there any other concerns, Mark, besides drainage that the folks have come up with?
No, we're fine with the lot layout and the buildings, and that's all that's fine to us. It's really just stormwater drainage and maintenance of it in the future. That's our big concern.
Are all the homes there high enough away from the road edges and the ponds? That's
It's a relative statement there.
You know, I've driven through there a couple.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of them are in fine shape as far as impact from higher groundwater.
All right, with that being said, I'd like to close the public portion of this, get into some staff comments, and see where we go from there. Okay. At this time, I'd like to close the public portion of this.
Fairwell,
Yes.
Steve Ross,
Yes.
Steve Martin,
Yes.
Rich Snyder,
Yes.
James Hanson,
Yes.
Ed Nelson, two yes.
Okay. Yeah. Janine, do you have anything right
I don't have anything to add at this time.
now? JP?
Well, I prepared a second comment letter last week after we've had more developed plans and more developed input. I guess I'll start with my last comment, and it ties in on the wetlands, and after doing some more research. The wetland mapping from the state and from the federal, National Wetlands Inventory have changed from what's depicted. Chris went into a lot of details on those kinds of things. It's important we resolve which are jurisdictional to the New York State wetlands and which are National Wetland Inventory, federal wetlands. And then that will help everyone resolve the remainder of items. Along those lines, and I hate to get into the wetland weeds here, but even the town's conservation overlay district maps are very dated compared to the mapping here. And the conservation board is dependent upon the conservation overlay districts reference the town of Hamlin's wetland mapping, which predates even the 1994 concept of this whole subdivision overall. So we need to get resolution on which of these, what are the actual boundaries of these wetlands, which are federal, which are state, and where does town overlay district boundaries start to come into play. For example, all this area here that Schultz's plans are showing as federal wetland would be normally considered as part of the town's conservation overlay district. Your conservation overlay district maps don't show that yet, because they're outdated as well. So we need to define the wetlands and jurisdictions between the state and the town.
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Just at one point. How do we go about it? All the principles are here.
Yeah.
Okay, what does it take to get clarity so that no stones left unturned, which also might end up helping some offsite drainage for everybody, both along frontage and 19, it's not your responsibility or responsibility.
So,
Okay, but in the interest of the applicant,
right,
okay, not to be held up by either us or himself or his professional, okay? What has to be done? Step 1, 2, 3, 4, and come up with it shortly.
I would guess, and Chris, if you want to interject, that he has sent a buyout out to do a survey and analysis, and that I think the first thing to do would be submit that for interpretation, whether the state agrees that their new mapped boundaries are wrong, and it happens many times, a map boundary by the state, even on the older maps, they would say, well, for this application, we want a specific delineated boundaries by a biologist that we can review.
Does
So that,
present day geodetic LiDAR work?
well, you know, ironically, Chris and I have spoken about this, that you would think with better aerial data and pictometry and things, these boundaries could be better defined, and with LiDAR, they seem to, as Chris suggested, just have kind of gotten bigger and the check zones have gotten bigger instead of being more.
I feel it, I know.
So I think to answer your question, He has a biologist lined up that delineated it. I think we need to get that interpretation submitted to the state and to the Army Corps of Engineers and get an interpretation. Do you agree how this is mapped today compared to your present day new boundary? So we just need to resolve it. We can't ignore it. We just have to.
And that's our game time. And we basically, okay, it's been today, and it's, okay, we gotta take this a little further, figure out what it's gonna take to do it, the time to call, if we're gonna say, with that, and then proceed. Because at this point, it's gotta be resolved. We can't move forward. And once we know, then we can kind of fall back on, why the town created the conservation corridor, what was it based on? So for example, if even though this Fed corridor wasn't listed on your map, the intent was, you got a wetland there, you need to look at it and make sure you're not impacting it.
Just
So
so
you
everybody,
might need to get a corridor for that.
just so everybody realizes that the LWRP and conservation corridor wasn't designed in an outhouse. Okay, it took 26 months, and we were the first community in the state of New York 30 plus years ago. They have an LWRP and did the original mapping. So it's not on us as much as on how other people interpret it, which includes you professionals coming to a concurrence.
So you guys are really good because you identified all the major creeks, obviously the lake, all those were the obvious things that needed to be protected. And you get down to, a farm ditch that narrows and narrows and eventually disappears. That's a little vague, but I think no matter what, you have to look at a project like this, almost separate, and say what makes sense. Does it make sense to recognize the wetlands? Is there a need to also grant a permit for potential disturbance adjacent to it? That's just kind of straightforward, I think.
JP, we're in a throes in the last few months of our update of the RWRP, so if we need any help from the Department of State, I'm sure the ability's there to work as a team between you two guys. Okay?
I was very optimistic when you mentioned the Department of State.
You guys won't let me call them. Okay? But anyway, so.
Okay, so while we're on the subject of drainage, as Mark Bellerstein brought up, the original concept in 1994 for Hidden Pines was a regular subdivision with streets and roads and street lights and water and sewer and sidewalk and the whole thing, and that market is not, for this area is not the market they're pursuing any longer. And it's probably, you don't move out to Hammond to live in a small subdivision, you move to Hammond to live in a large. That being said, so this became, Fawn Meadow became a private drive. And so the pond was never a dedicated pond to be maintained by the town as a function of controlling road drainage and being connected with a public roadway. So as a private road, the pond is private, and the HOA is responsible for that maintenance because it's not a dedicated pond.
What about, if I can interject?
Sure.
Downstream where we don't own the land and have access rights or easements associated with it? What do we do with that?
So the subdivision proposed, the remaining of Hidden Pines 3 proposed, is even larger, more expansive lots with very, very low impact on drainage. Like the increase of impervious is nominal. And we have lot 1 is almost 9 acres, lot 2 is 5 acres, lot 3 is 10 acres, and lot 4 is 5 acres. So these are very big lots for single family homes. So the drainage impact for the development of these should be minimal. Of course, they can't make matters worse. This would be as low of an impact as you could ever hope for compared to if it was farmed again or something along those lines. or was just stripped of any?
And some of the things we do, like along the driveway on the large lot, there's roadside swales.
Yeah.
That are on each side, that are purposely relatively flat. So as water shoots off the driveway and works to the north, a lot of it infiltrates, but it has a place to go in a direction, so you're not gonna have any nuisance water from that driveway, heading west, for example. The same thing happens with other lots. There's swales that run down property lines that direct sheet drainage to receiving bodies.
Yeah, I guess I'm not really worried about the new development and its runoff. I'm worried about the pathway that exists today and its maintenance. That's all I'm worried about.
The town engineer and this board will hold my feet to the fire that my design will not make things worse and most likely make it much better. And I can honestly say, through my career, we've done that repeatedly. We've greatly improved conditions, and it's just the way the town development regs are. What you need to do to drain lots properly to account for that. Just the fact that we're changing how the water enters the roadside ditch out on Lake Road and controlling it. We're not sending it through a corner of somebody else's property on a flat grade that doesn't do anything. And we shot every culvert up and down Lake Road to see exactly where the water went. And we're sizing all our pipes and our gradients so we know that water will go and have some place to continue on. So it's
But
hard.
I guess to Mark's concern, the improvements to the existing drainage system and what is either a federal or state wetland or whoever has jurisdiction isn't in the town's control
Correct.
to make off-site drainage. If it impacts public safety on a roadway or something of that nature, then the town can start to make drainage improvements or maintenance improvements. But this is all private pond here, private.
And what happens is,
The
folks, when they,
opportunity through the construction of the development is gonna be able to find anything that's glaring and, actually damming it up as far as roadside drainage out on Route 19. Okay.
But to the degree that the town can
State
amend any drainage, all along everywhere in the town is impossible.
from a Department of Public Works, maintenance, the way you look at things. On a county highway, state highway, or a county highway, we have the ability through governmental agency to clean ditches. Okay? So along Route 19, that can happen. If it's sanctioned by the state, and the town folks can do it if they're being reimbursed. Okay? Or if the county reimburses on a county highway. So the roadside portion of that wetland, which you're talking, the original ditch, you went across there, is a mess. You go by it every day, you see it. And then someplace along 19, it crosses under the road and goes someplace. Okay, I don't know where that is. But as far as what's happening on this site, can only improve if it's looked at properly. And in order to do that, you need to get the jurisdictional issues straightened out and taken care of. It's no different in clearing a lot time. Okay, so to build a house.
one of the things that happens when people invest in
I'd like to
substantial
move this
investment.
along a little bit. I mean, we've hit some pretty heavy things here. Keith, are you finished yet? Yeah.
The remainder of my comments, I started with that one because that's the drainage and the wetlands are the hot issue. The remainder are basically access the private road, how it should be constructed. It has to be paved. We have to get fire marshal's input for safety, movement of apparatus, access for emergency vehicles. And water supply. I guess this only other one I want to touch upon, the original concept when section 2 was constructed, there's an easement to extend water to the north of Mark Vallerstein's property to this boundary of section 3.
Is there an easement in it?
There's an easement to section 3, correct. And the idea was to extend this through, although there was no finalized concept.
Yeah, you're right, we did that because at the time, section 3 was still considered to be developable, 100-foot wide lots, you know,
So-
and dedicated road and just a cul-de-sac instead of an annex.
So my
Yeah.
only point, I hate to, well, I know we wanna move on here, but the water supply issue has come up from the fire marshal and fire protection in the distance some of these properties are from the roadway and the hydrant. So I brought that up in that respect. So we have some bigger issues we have to resolve first, but that's on the table, it's just one of my.
Okay,
Seeker unlisted, I would like a condition of approval for easements.
you know what?
Easements,
Easements?
yeah, there's a common driveway easement, for example. But I have no concerns beyond that.
Sure.
I think a lot of the same concerns that JP has brought up. Encountered that, new plans or whatever, and discussion.
Okay. Before we go on our federal planning board comments, we'll close the public hearing. At this time, okay, there's a lot of things that we left unsaid that can't be dealt with tonight. Okay. So we can table this for a month. Okay? And if there's a lot of things that might need participation, whatever, it'll be, in the town runner and stuff, if there's gonna be another part of the public hearing in a month. It's just too much, can't answer it, all right? And the plans, a lot of work's been done on this since last month, and I don't see where there's gonna be any significant changes, but, I've had conversation with the fire marshal. JP's had conversation with the fire marshal. There's been some discussion on what we do with that one lot that's so far away, okay? And there is a main close by that. That's for you, civil engineering folks to do,
Yeah,
okay?
and I did include a note saying that the lot will go slippy in the spring.
There's a big difference when it was a major subdivision when it
Yeah.
came back into this. I think it's doable, but, I've had some further conversations, and I believe there's a letter from the fire marshal. And then
Yep,
you
and these
respond
address
to
those comments and respond back to
Okay.
that comment. Yes.
And, the uniform code. Okay, that's what we're looking at, so I got it. Figures you did a lot of hydraulic figuring out how to do it.
Oh, yeah. It was
JP
the
made me correct.
You figure at training radiuses, all his comments, you look at the hammerhead locations, you just did that. It was all pretty much good comments, good concerns, we had no concern about the one lot one being good, saying this lot will most likely need sprinklers, so it's great. Anybody buying that would know that, you know, they basically would be the sprinklers in, the size of the service going back to the size appropriately for that. The pressures that would sustain it, you know, so we really jumped on every single thing and addressed it, right? And I did talk to the fire marshal initially.
Okay, really good. Phil, maybe the highway superintendent can get some feelers out with DOT and see about that bridge line along 19. See if that's something they're willing to pay for cleaning or they want to do it themselves. And that'd take the farthest downfall from that wetland out and take that out of motion for his one of Mark's concerns. And I think with grading and the job and everything, other stuff will maybe pop up to a certain extent. But it might be something you might want to look at now before the end of the year. Follow on this and stuff. Sure.
Maybe we can talk about it another time.
The only thing I'm curious about, you were talking about the ponds, Mark, are those all natural or man-made?
They're man-made, best of my knowledge. Tom would know better maybe, but I think they've been there. I think they're man-made.
One one pond was part of the subdivision, because of the smaller lots and the size of the road, we needed to take care of that runoff, so we did a standard stormwater pond.
Were they ponds or borrow pits?
No, they were a pond for stormwater treatment, and then they just charged it PVC, so that was like a standalone pond for section
Are they just infiltration ponds, or do they have?
two. Now, unfortunately, with the soil types, very little infiltration. Most stuff just kind of feeds the flow off, or it evaporates.
There's a big ditch that feeds those two
I was just saying somebody would have responsibility for maintenance on those.
The folks that live in the tract, the HOA, they take care of the road, they take, they're responsible for the storm structures, because it's all private.
So, if I can answer, we don't really have a problem with the pond or pond maintenance. It's the stuff we don't own that goes through the wetlands that we can't, we don't have any rights to do anything down there,
So you also said that the ponds, the level's been raising up over time.
because I don't think it's, so 20-some odd years, the ditches that this used to flow through are probably filled in with vegetation or something. I don't walk there very often. I think I was there maybe 4
Nobody's
years
got
ago.
any proof of that.
So, I think
It's just observation.
it boils down to, we need to find out whose jurisdiction those ditches are under, whether they're state or federal. And then we implement something in this offsite from section 2 and section 3. Is it an easement to who?
Yeah.
But
That would-
some way of finding out who has jurisdiction of maintenance.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because I just had a DEC audit, and the pond issue was a big deal. The pond, so that's why I'm asking if they're man-made and who's responsible for maintenance.
You know, if the lo- if this subdivision is developed, you have 4 nice estate houses built, things like a fallen tree in the ditch, just take care of. Because those are obvious things that people are living right there. And then they also want to do well by the neighbors upstream. If there's something that's an issue, or their attention. So just like section 2 has maintained their pond and they don't have any issue, the same thing will happen with development of the site. If the subdivision stopped, it would just continue to be a nuisance. It's just, you know, you don't pay attention to it, trees fall, silts in. When they're trying to map it, they're flying over, they can't see the ground, they can't really tell where the level is. So, I mean,
Let's wait till we get there.
yeah,
I'm in favor of taking
My suggestion is that, Monroe County Soil and Water take a look at this. That's their professionalism, that's their forte,
we can do it.
and I'll tell you,
They used to be very, very aggressive, and, you know, Paula Smith was there, she came out the next day, and she was very much about it. I haven't had that same experience have you do about anybody that
I suggest that you get a hold of them and let them come out and take a look at it, because soils are their business, and I've been waiting for 2 years for them to come out and look at another piece of property that we could farm, and
Yeah.
to this day, they have yet to come and take a look at it.
Really?
So, you better get a hold of them, get a hold of the right people, and have them out there and take a look at those, because they have maps. You
Yeah, we
see
have
the
the same
map.
maps, yeah, we have.
What soils are suited for, if they're suited for farming or for building, and that could be to your
Fortunate,
advantage.
because we all have the same maps,
Okay,
which is nice, and they're actually in a national
yeah, they don't
database.
make them anymore.
If you go in, there's a website that's centered in California, that's the entire country.
Mm.
You go in and it shows you the United States, so you zoom right in, and all those maps come up.
Let's suggest you think that going on, we're gonna continue on with this.
So everybody get a little breath of fresh air. Is the developer considered an association? Because he got that far, as you mentioned,
Once you get a preliminary approval, then you start working on the legal documents, which include, association that controls, you know, the private drives and your
Well,
drainage and all that stuff.
the big lots association seem to come together. My wife there, she'd say, let's plant 10 acres of sunflower seeds. And yeah, so I'm just concerned about that. The size of that driveway, the length of that driveway. there gonna ever be any school kids living that track?
The way it works is the bus picks them up on Lake Road. They don't go down.
Is the kid's gonna need a bus to get to the
No,
bus?
they just need a parent that is either gonna drive them to the end of the drive, or get to the bus, or drive over to school.
They're gonna have a golf cart.
Or you ever see like the little outhouses they build at the end of private drives, so the kids get out of the way? So they do that.
Right. Outside of that, let's get it done. Yeah, we're good. You abstain? Why is that? Just want everybody to know, we do everything according to law. Okay. Unfortunately, they go over. Okay, at this time, this has had preliminary approval as a subdivision for section. Does it or not, does it? Does it or does it not need preliminary reapproval?
Well, they're making some changes, right?
Pardon me?
They're amending the map, so I would say it needs to be reapproved.
Yeah, section 3 would never look like, it was never broken
It
down.
was an orphanage, it was an orphanage. I must answer the question, because if we go for another month and we table this, all right, there's a lot of things that can happen that bring it to a point where we'd be looking at the possibility of granting a preliminary and final in one meeting,
Okay,
okay?
nothing wrong with it.
I'm just flying it back, all right? So I entertain a motion for tabling this, so we can take the proper hard look at what we have in front of us, and what we need to have, and taking into account the public comments, as well as the wetland comments that we have there. We're at a 95% complete project here. We just need to do some little bit more with it.
So I make a motion to table the application of Thomas Mail in behind section 3, text count 029.01-2-16.1 and 029.010-1-005.199.
Second.
I have one question, are we gonna table it at a certain date, or leave it open?
Well, I think it's hard to ask JP and Chris how long it's gonna take to take the hard hike. I don't know about Tom, okay?
The big thing is when I make that call to the DEC tomorrow, and Steve Miller says, yeah, the
Let's
answer
leave
next
it
week.
open, let's leave it open before we establish
See you next year.
accepting a project for the next meeting.
TBA.
Then we should have a better feel for it, and then we get these folks back in the mix.
Jim Fryerwald,
Yes.
Steve Law,
Yes.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Chris Snyder,
Yes.
Jim Nesbitt.
Yes.
Ed Nelson.
Yes.
Steve Hendricks.
And I will keep the town informed on the progress. If we need to bump it again, there'll be a final request. Anything that's advised before, keep the project moving. You won't disappear, we'll keep you in the loop of our progress. Okay?
Thank you
That way
very
we
much.
can keep the applicant.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. The next item on the agenda, Chris, you're still on board. 180 Ketchum Road.
This one's a little straightforward, a little more. This is a simple one-lot residential site plan. Parcel on the north side of Ketchum Road, it's under 9 acres.
Before we need to have coffee breaks, I left my staff and sit there.
The cupcakes are all me.
I got her out of hospital. Dr. Robbins is about this. She was first, we got it at 4 a.m. She was done with the surgery by she's out of recovery. She had ED. Got her out of there.
He's okay. He's okay.
All right, that's your road. So, as I mentioned, this one is a little bit more straightforward than the last one. It's just a single lot that was created by a subdivision a number of years ago, so it's a site plan showing improvements associated with single-family residence being constructed. Got public water out there, we've done the soil testing, done design work, submitted, and looked at an engineer, review letter, provides those plans accordingly, I believe, their satisfaction. Water has looked at it, they're ready to go, and so it's like.
At this point, we're open the public hearing for this one. And, is there anybody here that wants to speak for or against this?
Hi, everyone. Marissa Cowan, 200 Custom Road. Just wanted to inquire about the setback of the property from the road in relation to the other houses surrounding it.
Sure. I'm gonna steal a map because. Your name is Steve.
He's alive for this one.
I'm at 206.
It actually.
That's not.
Yeah, so that'll be
Okay, then. Yeah, I do have concerns about that.
Hey, Chris, you might want to bring this together here. Well, you have public comment, ain't answered by Rob.
So why don't you mention to them what you've considered?
So, site plan that you just showed me shows, and could you just give a rough footage from 200 back to 180?
Right, so this is set, looks like 247 feet out of center line proposed. This is their residence to the west, and they're concerned with the proposed house being behind your house.
Yes, that's an additional 70 feet, 80 feet behind my current residence. And I think the concern there is there's 4 houses on the west side, 2 houses on the east side, all relatively in line with one another, 10 feet. I think Cheryl would know better the setback actually is. Having that, and I just want to mention the comment earlier about, you don't move to Hamlin to look at the subdivision. I don't want to walk outside my back door and see someone's front of their house. Or them looking into the back. So those are my concerns aesthetically on the road. Everything is pretty much in line with that middle section of Ketchum. And that's one of my comments.
Yeah. Yeah, oftentimes when that type of concern is brought up, you look to see, what can be done to mitigate the views and things like that. What I can do is talk to my client about, putting in some, like a row of pines or whatever through here that will basically satisfy that issue. They have spent a bunch of time in this area clearing everything else, and they came up with this and said, this is right where we want the house. That was based on them owning the lot, and the lot is very, very deep. If you look at the overview map, this is a significantly deep lot, so they're not, they're not by any way, crowding the front. The front is, almost 13 feet deep. A lot it is. So, but again, because we have some decent width on the lots, being able to put together a little bit of visual separation is usually not a big deal. They may have the same feelings that they have, where they don't want to be looking into the backyards of the neighbors. So I'd be happy to hear from my clients and strongly suggest you get a row of pines up there. It would also create a brick wall for the winter winds and snow. If they get some landscaping ones this time.
I'm kind of guessing that her concern, which I completely understand, with been in this business for a lot of years, is sightline. the whole thing, yeah, you're not gonna look at a house, now you're gonna look at a row of trees. And your view, at very many places, sightline is a very important factor.
And the maintenance of those, right? So who's responsible for the maintenance, you know, in 10, 15 years growing over the property, well, then that becomes my problem.
They would never be planted so that upon maturity, they would cross the property line. We would show the trees such that they could mow around them through maturity, never hit the one. Yeah, you don't plant trees out in your property lines, that's the worst thing you do. You're gonna keep this in your house.
Can I say something? I'm Heidi Cowan, I'm at 206 Ketchum. My husband did plant pine trees, and they're a disaster. The neighbors, I gotta clean the yard, but I also don't want to look at a house somewhere back there. I mean, I've been there 30 years. You know, we got two houses down the street. I mean, she bought the house because she grew up there, loved the neighborhood. You know, don't want, I don't know, you just want your privacy.
Yeah, I can certainly talk to
Yeah.
clients to see if they have any
And
desire.
they did clear that out.
Yeah,
The
Yeah.
previous owners did.
I mean, but that's where they cited it, but
Yeah.
I have no problem talking to my clients to see if they bring the house forward. And if there's room to do it, if they bring it forward, it would be closer to your house. You'd have to keep the leaf system where it is, and the house. You'd have to bring a house here, so you'd end up with a house much more closer to your house. Get it front door.
Yeah, I just don't wanna be in my sunroom looking at the front of someone's
It doesn't
house.
hurt to ask.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
we can't have three meetings. Happy to do that.
And then I,
All right, we had 3 meetings here, or 4. All right. So we have a concern, okay? This has been somewhat legitimized. As you said, you would probably go back to the prospective owners and see if there's some kind of movement either way. Concern I have is a pole barn is attached to the garage, that can't happen. Okay, the pole barn can't be in front of the existing residence unless you go to zoning and get a variance.
Sharon said it could be like that if there's stores.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they have to fire.
Oh, they would definitely have to have
Okay.
fire protection.
But there's some things that can't happen as it shows right here, unless it's architecturally.
Yeah, we believe the layout and how it was configured was run by Cheryl, but we'll make sure we comply with all rules.
But something's gonna have to be said to try to accomplish not having site pictures between the front and back of these two homes.
Sure.
Okay. And still be able to accomplish what the owner needs to have. So I'm not inclined to, number one, I think I want to close the public hearing section.
Can I just say one more thing?
No.
Are they gonna do the house first or the pole barn first?
I believe in the town, you basically have to get a permit for a house.
Okay, cause
Or
I
you're
know we
allowed.
have, we
There's
have
some
another
town-
pole barn down there. We got 2 of them.
Yeah,
And
that's
every
been
time they don't maintain them, I mean.
If my memory's good, I think that's been
Yeah,
a nuisance problem.
where originally
what
they
the
were gonna
town
build
says-
houses, but still haven't.
You know, you can build your pole barn first as long as you have your building permit for your house, because lots of folks want the pole barn so they can keep all the materials locked up while the house is being built. So it's like a catch-22 where, but
Some don't
what you
know
don't
about
want
that,
is
but
just
some don't build
a pole barn there forever.
Yeah, okay.
I believe that's right.
If it did happen, they would have to go to zoning for variance first to build the barn.
There's some town issues with that, and there always has been.
Yes.
So, okay, I'd like to close the public portion of this, please call the vote.
Sharon Steigerwald.
Yes.
Steve Rock. Dave Martin.
Yes.
Bruce Slider.
Yes.
That's it. Ed Nelson.
Yes.
Who did?
All right, if we were to look at preliminary, would you want secret for this?
Yes.
Would be inclined to accept this for preliminary, they got some work to do, but I think they'd also like to get the secret taken care of at this juncture.
I will consider the application Morgan and Andrew Conan, 180 Hudson Road, that is unlisted, resolved that this unlisted action we adopt the negative declaration.
Second.
All those please.
Didn't hold it.
Jim Federell,
Yes.
Steve Rock,
Yes.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Bruce Schreider,
Yes.
Mark Nesbitt,
Yes.
Ed Nelson,
Yes.
Steve Martin.
Need a motion to grant preliminary?
We've already done the secret.
Yes, he was done.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion for Morgan and Andrew. How do you say that last name, Andrew? Oh, okay. And 180 Hudson Road, tax account number 014.02-1-13.214. Preliminary and final approval. Preliminary, yeah, okay, preliminary approval. This is a, unlisted action, recommend the following resolution. We already did that, and we're up to
You want to state the conditions?
Conditions for preliminary approval.
Yeah.
Would be location of house.
and that's it, here we have.
You put that together.
Jim Federell. Yes. Steve Rock,
No.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Bruce Schreider,
Yes.
Mark Nesbitt,
Yes.
Ed Nelson,
Yes.
Steve Martin.
Okay, next item on the agenda. Dorothy Butcher, 5774 West Lawn Beach Road, Conservation Border Development. Permit.
That's me.
And you. Okay.
Well, come on up if you want.
Come on down.
Thank you for your patience.
No problem, I'm very interesting.
Long night.
I don't know if it's worse living where these people live or living on the lake.
We don't get drainage really.
Okay, looking for a permit,
You gotta fix some decks.
yes. And reinforce the one at the top. Because I want to put front.
Okay.
Bless you.
Janine,
Yeah, I looked at this and it's just going to repair and right back in the same place it is.
Yes.
Just curious, are you gonna be able to save your vinyl, decking? Not the decking, but the railings, are you gonna be able to save all that?
No, I'm replacing the railings and I'm replacing the pressure-treated deck.
But, for the permit, I don't see any issues with it.
Contractor has changed, the scope of the work a little bit. Instead of putting some tubes down into the ground and disturbing the soil and concrete soil in the area, he's going to just, structural needs a larger impact and give this concrete base at the bottom of the box.
JP,
No engineering concerns?
Keith,
No legal concerns.
Sure,
No concerns.
sure. Steve?
No concern.
No concern. Just for a note, this lake elevation today was 245.69.
Not good.
What's the one for you?
Well, there's enough in there.
I've lived there too long to know.
All right, need a secret for this?
Yeah, I'll make a motion for the application of appreciate Shaheen, 7616.
No. Wrong application.
This one.
Conservation, conservation corridor, well. 7616, right?
No.
No.
5774.
5774 West Potomac Beach Road.
Oh, do we classify it?
No, I think you don't have the new one, do
All right, I'll make a motion for Dorothy Butcher, 5774 West Lantana Beach Road, via type 2 action under secret. Sorry.
That's okay.
It's been a long night.
Yeah.
Can I get a second?
Movable. Second.
Thank you. Sharon Steigerwald. Yes. Steve Law.
Yeah.
Dave Martin.
Yes.
Rich Schreiber. James Nesbitt.
Yes.
Ed Nelson.
Yes.
Steve Hickman.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the conservation corridor development permit, 5774 West Lantana Beach Road, Dorothy Butcher, tax account number 008.15-1-45. This is an SR zoning district, the LWRP and CHOP.
Second.
All of those, please.
Sharon Steigerwald.
Yes.
Steve Law.
Yeah.
Dave Martin.
Yes.
Rich Schreiber.
Yes.
James Nesbitt.
Yes.
Ed Nelson.
Yes.
Steve Hickman. All right.
Next item on the agenda.
Now you're gonna go.
The last item on the
Comes to me
agenda.
tomorrow.
Yes.
The
Thank you.
most patient people with the meeting.
Yes, yes, they've been very patient, thank you.
If I didn't have 5 public times, we could have had you done a lot earlier. So, once again, I apologize. Okay. And so this is for Pinecrest Associates at 7616 Nuco Drive, Patricia Shaheen.
So,
Okay. They added that with a wheelchair. And the weather's so good. It's about it, right?
right, right.
Simple.
This is for their brother.
Yeah, so
He's an owner.
Pinecrest Associates is our siblings with my sister, and we've got, there's 6 of us that are siblings, and we were forced to raise the house 2 feet because of flooding. And now we're stuck with how do you get in, how do you get out, and in the meantime, our brother became, paralyzed. And, so it's really the only place he can go with his family, if we can get him in there, we haven't been able to get him in there yet. So we're asking for a lift in the back.
Okay. Janine.
Yes, I looked at this and there's no issues with it for either the LWRP or the Conservation Corps Development Permit.
Judging from the name Shaheen and Pinecrest, I think the Sheps and the Shaheens all went to St. Thomas the Apostle.
Familiar, oh my God, your name wasn't up there.
Yeah, so,
Pretty much.
yeah. Who would deny a wheelchair?
I would hope
That's
it'd be
what I
already
would
done, and just right away they can compliance. Okay.
No engineering concerns.
Very good. Kate,
No concerns.
sure.
No concerns.
No concern.
They're good.
Oh, man, we should have-
We waited all this time for this. Like I said, I'm surprised it isn't already.
I do have one question though. In the picture, you already have, is that 2 decks in the back?
There's nothing there now,
There's nothing there now.
yeah. So there's, there's, the side to get, so he can get in the side entrance. It's like a narrow ramp there and then open up.
I just wasn't sure if you were adding a 3rd deck.
Okay.
Steve? We love dates, but since they waited so long, I think they deserve some good dates.
That's what they're there for. Thank you. We'll second that motion.
Make sure you grant 3.
You don't know the program first.
All right, let's have some motions and get this over.
Make a motion then for, Pinecrest Associates 7616 Newco Drive is a unlisted type 2 negative deck.
Second.
Just type 2.
Just type 2 negative deck, not unlisted. Type 2 negative deck.
Second.
Any votes, please?
Okay, Sharon Steigerwald,
Yes.
Steve Law,
Yeah.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Rich Snyder,
Yes.
James Nesbitt.
Yes.
Ed Nelson,
Yes.
Steve Bittner.
Motion for approval for Pinecrest Associates, Patricia Shaheen, owner, Pinecrest Associates, Conservation Corridor Development Permit and deck with a wheelchair lift in the rear water side yard that will be less than 100 feet from Lake Ontario, located at 7616 Newco Drive. This will be used by family members so they may enjoy their family time in the lake view. The DEC has issued a letter of no jurisdiction for the project. The following documents have been submitted for review: letter of introduction, conservation corridor development permit application, instrument survey map, DEC letter of no jurisdiction, and drawings of the project. 006.08-1-11.
Second.
Sharon Steigerwald,
Yes.
Steve Law,
Yeah.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Rich Snyder,
Yes.
James Nesbitt.
Yes.
Ed Nelson,
Yes.
Steve Bittner.
Yes.
Very good.
Thank you.
Careful driving home.
Thank you.
Don't forget your cupcakes.
Don't forget your cupcakes.
Oh, don't forget your cupcakes.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, what's going on for the town board?
We've got a public hearing coming up on the 9th for a moratorium on the solar farms. We wanted to get it in for the 28th, but we didn't make the date. September 9th meeting, 6:30.
I would suggest that some of us at least.
Yeah.
When is that meeting?
The 9th at 6:30.
I'll be there.
And we're also looking for a new corporate clerk. So we're accepting applications for that.
Is there one county civil service position?
I'm not sure. No, I don't believe it.
I just wonder if there's a list up here. Okay, anybody else have anything they want to talk about?
I just have one quick question for Keith. The Conservation Board, which is also known as the Waterfront Advisory Committee, looks at type 1 and unlisted actions for the LWRP. So, how does the generator fit into it? Are those always type 2?
Almost always, yes.
Even
It would
the-
have to be an awfully large generator.
Even the whole house generators are still type 2?
Yes.
Okay, that was my question.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Those are.
Thank you, thanks, Steve.